The message came at exactly midnight, a transmission that would change the fate of Earth forever. It was not a negotiation. It was a warning. We are the Zorvan Empire. Your species is weak, your world unworthy. You have 24 hours to surrender, or face complete annihilation. The words echoed through the United Nations war room, where Earth's leaders, military generals, and top scientists had gathered in emergency session. The room was tense. Some whispered in fear. Others clenched their fists in anger. General Ethan Carter, a hardened military strategist, stood up. His eyes were fixed on the holographic screen displaying the message. "They think they can wipe us out in a day," he muttered. "Let's show them how wrong they are." A silent invasion begins. Far beyond the moon, in the cold darkness of space, the Zorvan fleet was already moving. Their warships, black and jagged like predatory beasts, drifted silently toward Earth. At the command bridge of the lead ship, Zorvan warlord Kelnar watched his tactical screens with cold, reptilian eyes. "Have the humans responded?" he asked. The Zorvan officer bowed. "No, Supreme Warlord. They are still silent." Kelnar sneered. "Typical. They are frozen in fear. Let us begin our attack. Destroy their Mars colony first. Make them understand who rules this galaxy." The order was given. A massive Zorvan plasma cannon powered up, its deadly glow illuminating the darkness. Within seconds, a blue energy beam shot through space, racing toward Mars. The first casualties. On Mars Colony 1, scientist Dr. Emily Rhodes was staring at her monitor when the alarms began blaring. Incoming object detected. Impact in 60 seconds. The entire colony went into panic mode. Scientists ran to the emergency bunkers. Soldiers grabbed their weapons, even though they knew there was no way to fight what was coming. Emily's hands trembled as she typed a desperate message to Earth. "We are under attack. The Zorvans have fired a weapon. We may not survive. Please, fight back." She pressed send, just as the sky outside turned blinding white. A moment later, the Mars colony was gone. The shock on Earth. Inside Earth's War Command Center, the Mars distress signal flashed once, then cut to static. The room went silent. President Alexander Rice closed his eyes, his face grim. How many survivors? The technician swallowed hard. None. The loss of the entire colony in a single strike sent a wave of cold terror through every leader in the room. For the first time in history, humanity was no longer the dominant force. But General Carter was not ready to surrender. He stepped forward, his voice steel. "Mars is gone, but we are still here. And if the Zorvans think humanity will go down without a fight, then they've just made the biggest mistake of their lives." The room looked at him. Some still had fear in their eyes, but others had fire. A decision had to be made. Would humanity bow to the Zorvan Empire? Or would this become the fastest war in history? Carter clenched his fists. "We have 23 hours left. Let's make them count." The loss of Mars Colony 1 had shaken Earth. 1 million lives, gone in seconds. The Zorvan Empire had made their first move, and now the countdown to humanity's extinction had begun. But Earth was not defenseless. Deep beneath the surface, hidden in classified military bases, something had been prepared for this very moment. Something that the Zorvans did not expect. The War Council. In the heart of Earth's Strategic Defense Center, General Ethan Carter stood at the head of a long steel table. Across from him sat the President, top military commanders, scientists, and intelligence officers. A large holographic timer counted down. 23:14:09. The Zorvans had given them less than a day to surrender, but Carter had no intention of doing so. President Rice exhaled, rubbing his temples. "They took out Mars like it was nothing. If they fire at Earth, we won't have time to react." "That's what they think, sir," Carter said, his voice firm. "But they don't know what we've been building." He turned to a gray-haired scientist, Dr. Adrian Wells, who nodded and brought up a holographic display. What appeared shocked everyone in the room. A fleet of warships, unlike anything seen before, hovered in the projection. Sleek, black, covered in adaptive armor, and equipped with technology beyond anything the public knew existed. Project Revenant, Dr. Wells said, his voice proud. AI-controlled warships, built for one purpose: total space warfare. And they're ready to launch. The room went silent. The Zorvans underestimate humanity. Meanwhile, aboard the Zorvan flagship, Warlord Kellner stood with his arms crossed, watching a hologram of Earth's leaders in discussion. His spies had intercepted the broadcast. He could see their fear, their hesitation. He smirked. Pathetic. They still believe they have a chance. A Zorvan officer approached. Supreme Warlord, our invasion fleet is in position. Shall we begin planetary bombardment? Kellner waved a dismissive hand. Let them struggle. They have a few hours left before we burn their world to ash. He turned away, completely unaware that humanity had just flipped the game. The secret fleet awakens. Back on Earth, alarms blared as the launch sequence for Project Revenant began. Deep inside a hidden military facility, dozens of massive hangar doors slid open, revealing sleek, dark warships lined up like sleeping giants. Inside each ship, no pilots sat in the cockpit. Instead, an advanced AI system controlled every function, designed to think and react faster than any human could. This was Earth's answer to the Zorvan threat. Launch sequence initiated. Engines roared to life. One by one, the Revenant warships lifted off, shooting toward space at impossible speeds. For the first time, humanity was not just defending itself. It was going on the attack. The first counterattack. As the Zorvan fleet hovered above Earth, preparing to unleash their final strike, an officer on the bridge suddenly gasped. Supreme Warlord, unknown ships approaching fast. Kellner frowned. What? They don't have space combat capability. But then, the Revenant ships appeared on the Zorvan scanners, hundreds of them. The AI fleet opened fire before the Zorvans could react. Energy beams sliced through the darkness. Explosions erupted as Zorvan warships were hit, their shields failing in seconds. The hunters had just become the hunted. Warlord Kellner's eyes widened as his ships began falling one by one. Impossible, he whispered. But it was happening, and they had less than 22 hours left. The battle had begun. Earth's Project Revenant had taken the Zorvans by complete surprise. Their once invincible fleet was now under attack, suffering heavy losses. But General Ethan Carter knew this was only the beginning. The Zorvans were a mighty empire. A single ambush wouldn't be enough to defeat them. If humanity wanted to survive, they had to do something bold. They had to set a trap. The Zorvans regroup. On the Zorvan flagship, Warlord Kellner clenched his fists as another one of his warships exploded in a ball of fire. His fleet had lost 15 warships in minutes, and for the first time in centuries, the Zorvans were on the defensive. Status report, he barked. His second-in-command, Commander Zelvar, hesitated before speaking. We underestimated the humans. Their ships are unlike anything we have seen before. Kellner snarled. I don't care about excuses. What is their weakness? Zelvar studied the battle reports, his eyes narrowing. They are AI-controlled, no biological pilots. That means, if we find their command center, we can disable them all at once. Kellner's lips curled into a cruel smile. Then find it. Now. Earth's plan. Lure them in. Back in Earth's War Command Center, General Carter watched the battle unfold on the giant holographic screen. So far, the AI fleet had the upper hand, but it wouldn't last forever. President Reyes leaned forward. How long can our ships hold the advantage? Dr. Adrian Wells, the scientist behind Project Revenant, frowned. Maybe a few more hours, but the Zorvans will adapt. They always do. Carter nodded. Then we hit them before they can. He turned to the holographic map of the solar system and pointed to a location between Earth and Mars, a massive asteroid field known as the Graveyard. We lure the Zorvins here. Their ships are too large, too bulky to maneuver in tight spaces, but our AI fighters, they'll have the advantage. The president's eyes widened. You're suggesting we fight them in an asteroid field? Carter smirked. No, sir. I'm suggesting we trap them there and wipe them out in one strike. The bait is placed. The Revenant fleet began a strategic retreat, pulling back toward the asteroid field. The Zorvins, seeing their enemy fleeing, took the bait. On board the Zorvin flagship, Kelnar's eyes gleamed with victory. They are retreating, Selvar announced. Kelnar grinned. Then we chase them down. Finish them. The Zorvin fleet pushed forward, hunting the AI ships, never realizing that they were being led into a death trap, into the abyss. As the Zorvin fleet entered the asteroid field, their large, powerful warships struggled to move. Navigation is difficult. Supreme Warlord, one of the officers reported, these rocks are interfering with our scanners. Kelnar growled, then increase firepower, blast our way through. But the moment the Zorvins fired on the asteroids, they made a fatal mistake. Hidden among the floating rocks were hundreds of explosives, carefully planted by Earth's forces. And with the first blast, they all detonated at once. The trap is sprung. The asteroid field erupted into chaos. Massive space rocks shattered into thousands of deadly fragments, tearing through Zorvin warships like hot knives through butter. Explosions rippled through the fleet. Ships crashed into each other. Dozens of Zorvin vessels were destroyed in seconds. From a distance, General Carter watched the chaos unfold. Detonate Phase 2. Now, a second explosion rippled through the asteroid field, releasing a hidden EMP wave that short-circuited even more Zorvin ships. Inside his flagship, Kelnar staggered backward as the ship's lights flickered. We've been ambushed. It's a trap. But it was too late. Half of the Zorvin invasion force was gone, and Earth had just turned the tide of war. The asteroid field was a graveyard of Zorvin warships. Burning wreckage floated silently in space. The once mighty Zorvin invasion fleet had been shattered, but humanity knew this was only the beginning. General Ethan Carter watched the battlefield from Earth's War Command Center, his face calm but his mind racing. They won't accept defeat this easily, he muttered. And he was right, because at that very moment, the Zorvin Empire was preparing to strike back. The Emperor's decision. Deep in the heart of the Zorvin homeworld, Supreme Emperor Talzor stood inside his towering palace, his expression dark. Before him, a holographic projection of Warlord Kelnar flickered. The once proud general now looked humbled and furious, his fleet in ruins. The humans are not what we expected, my Emperor, Kelnar admitted. They have weapons beyond our calculations. We need reinforcements. The Emperor's 4 glowing eyes narrowed. You are a disgrace, Kelnar. A single primitive race has humiliated you. Kelnar clenched his jaw. I will not fail again, my Emperor. We underestimated them. The Emperor turned to a figure standing beside him, a shadowy figure, one of the Empire's most feared warlords. High Executioner Varric, a Zorvin legend, a conqueror of countless worlds. Varric stepped forward, his voice cold and emotionless. The time for games is over. I will lead the next assault. Humanity will burn. The Emperor nodded. Take the Doombringer fleet. Leave nothing standing. A fleet 10 times larger than the first invasion force prepared for war. Earth detects the incoming doom. Back in Earth's war room, alarms blared. Sir, we're detecting a massive fleet inbound. An officer shouted. This is different from before. The size, it's overwhelming. General Carter's stomach twisted. He stared at the holographic display as countless red markers appeared. An entire armada heading straight for Earth. Dr. Wells paled. This is a total extermination force. President Reyes tightened his fists. How long do we have? The officer swallowed. Less than 10 hours. A cold silence filled the room. Then Carter spoke. Then we use Plan Omega. Plan Omega. Earth's final defense. Carter pulled up a classified blueprint. It showed a massive energy barrier surrounding Earth, something never tested before. The Aegis Shield. Dr. Wells nodded. If we activate it, nothing gets in or out. But General, it's still experimental. We've never used it on this scale. Carter took a deep breath. We don't have a choice. Within hours, Earth's top scientists, engineers, and military forces work together, preparing to activate the shield. Humanity's last line of defense. The Doombringer fleet arrives. As Earth's forces scrambled, High Executioner Varric's fleet emerged from hyperspace. The Doombringer fleet stretched across space, its warships so large they cast shadows over the stars. Varric stood on the bridge of his command dreadnought, staring at Earth. Pathetic planet, he sneered. They think they can resist us. Shall we begin the bombardment? A Zorvan officer asked. Varric smirked. No, I want to see them break first. Hail them. A transmission was sent. The final warning. Inside Earth's war room, a holographic projection of High Executioner Varric appeared. The room fell silent. Varric's glowing eyes studied them like insects. Humans, you have defied the Zorvan Empire. Your victory in the asteroid field was amusing, but meaningless. His voice dropped to a chilling whisper. Surrender now, or we will erase your world from existence. The president's face was grim. He turned to Carter. Carter stepped forward. Varric, I assume. If you think we're going to surrender, you don't know humanity. Varric chuckled. Then you have chosen death. The transmission cut off. Outside, the Zorvan fleet prepared to fire. Inside Earth's war room, Carter gave the order. Activate the Aegis Shield. In the next moment, the sky above Earth lit up. A massive glowing energy field enveloped the planet, blocking all incoming attacks. The Zorvan fleet opened fire, but their weapons bounced harmlessly off the shield. Varric's smirk disappeared. What? For the first time, the Zorvans realized. Humanity was not going down without a fight. The skies above Earth burned with fire as the Zorvan fleet unleashed its full power. But the planet remained untouched. The Aegis Shield held strong, deflecting every blast, every energy beam, every missile. For the first time in history, the Zorvan Empire's weapons had failed. Varric's rage. On the bridge of the Zorvan command dreadnought, High Executioner Varric clenched his fists. Impossible, he hissed. No shield can withstand that level of firepower. His second-in-command, Commander Velkar, studied the readings. It's a planetary defense field of unknown technology. We have never encountered anything like it. Varric's eyes burned with fury. Then we break it. Earth's war room. Inside the underground War Command Center, General Carter watched the battle unfold on the holographic display. Every attack from the Zorvan fleet struck the shield and failed. Dr. Wells exhaled in relief. The Aegis Shield is holding. President Reyes nodded, but his expression was still tense. For how long? Wells hesitated. The shield was never designed for prolonged use. The energy core is draining fast. We have. She checked the calculations. 9 hours before it fails. The room fell silent. 9 hours. After that, Earth would be completely vulnerable. Carter gritted his teeth. We need to go on the offensive. Now, a desperate plan. Carter turned to his top strategists. The Zorvans aren't stopping. We need to cripple their fleet before the shield collapses. What are our options? One of the officers spoke up. We do have one option, sir. It's risky. The display shifted, showing a massive space station hidden behind the moon. Project Leviathan. A prototype planetary cannon designed to fire a supercharged plasma beam capable of destroying a capital ship in one shot. Carter's eyes narrowed. How many shots can it fire? Dr. Wells sighed. One, maybe two, then it overheats. The president frowned. That's not enough to wipe out their entire fleet. Carter smirked. It doesn't have to. We just need to take out their command dreadnought. Cut off the head, and the body crumbles. The attack begins. As the Zorvans continued their furious assault, a single human stealth ship slipped past their fleet, heading toward the moon. Inside, Captain Lyanna Hayes piloted the craft, her hands steady despite the tension. Approaching Project Leviathan, her co-pilot announced. Hayes activated the targeting systems, locking onto Varric's dreadnought, charging the cannon. Varric's discovery. Back on the Zorvan flagship, alarm suddenly blared. Supreme Executioner, we've detected an energy buildup behind the moon. Velkar shouted. Varric turned sharply. What are they doing? Then he saw it. A massive plasma surge gathering near Earth's moon. His eyes widened in horror. Evasive maneuvers. Now. Fire. A single blinding beam of energy erupted from the Leviathan station. The space around it lit up like a second sun. The beam tore through the darkness of space, moving at impossible speed, and slammed into Varric's dreadnought. The ship shook violently as explosions ripped through its hull. The bridge erupted into chaos, sparks and fire raining down as the ship's core overloaded. Varric staggered back, his expression twisting into shock. His invincible warship was falling apart. How? Before he could finish, a final explosion tore through the ship. The mighty Zorvan flagship was no more. The Empire stumbles. Across the battlefield, Zorvan warships faltered. With their commander dead, confusion spread. Their greatest warlord, the feared High Executioner Varric, was gone. And for the first time in centuries, the Zorvans felt fear. The wreckage of Varric's dreadnought drifted in the darkness of space. The once mighty Zorvan High Executioner was gone. And for the first time, humanity had struck true fear into the heart of the Zorvan Empire. But this war was far from over. A new nightmare awakens. On the bridge of a Zorvan command carrier, Commander Velkar stood in stunned silence. The human weapon, that impossible planetary cannon, had just wiped out the fleet's strongest warship. The death of Varric had left the Zorvan forces in chaos. Some of the lesser captains hesitated. Some even considered retreating. But Velkar, he had no fear. He turned to his officers, his voice cold and sharp. Enough. We will not fall to these creatures. One of his advisors hesitated. Commander, we should regroup. Velkar's claws flashed. In a blur, he struck the officer across the throat, silencing him forever. He turned to the others. Cowards will not survive this day. Then he activated his personal communicator. A secret frequency connected only to one place, the Imperial vaults. Velkar spoke a single command. Unleash the dreadships. Earth's brief victory. Inside Earth's war room, celebrations had already begun. General Carter and his team watched as the wreckage of the Zorvan flagship burned in orbit. Dr. Wells exhaled. We did it. We actually did it. The president nodded. For the first time in history, the Zorvans have suffered a real defeat. Across the planet, people cheered. Cities that had been preparing for inevitable destruction now had hope. But Carter wasn't smiling. He stared at the holographic display. The rest of the Zorvan fleet was still there, still watching. And then, the sensors picked up something new. The dreadships arrive. At the edge of the battlefield, 3 massive rifts opened in space. The fabric of reality itself twisted and screamed as something emerged from the void. 3 black, monstrous warships, each the size of a small moon. They were unlike anything humanity had ever seen before. Dr. Wells' face turned pale. What are those? The officer at the console's hands shook. They weren't on any of our scans before. It's like they just appeared. Carter's heart pounded. This was something else. Something worse. Then a signal came through. Velkar's voice echoed through the war room. You have defied the Zorvan Empire. You have struck down one of our greatest warlords. His voice turned to cold fury. Now, you've faced the true power of our empire. The dreadships powered up. Their weapons hummed with energy. And then, they fired. The Aegis shield fails. A beam of pure darkness erupted from the lead dreadship, moving faster than any human had time to react. It struck the Aegis shield with a force beyond anything in recorded history. The planet shook. Cities across Earth felt the impact as the shield flared, and then collapsed. The Aegis shield, the one thing protecting Earth, was gone. And now, the Zorvans had a clear path to attack. The final stand. Carter stood frozen for only a second. Then he barked orders. Scramble every fighter. Activate all ground defenses. Get every civilian into the bunkers now. Dr. Wells clutched her head. We're out of time. We have nothing left to hold them back. The president clenched his jaw. Then we fight. The final battle for Earth had begun. The countdown reaches 0. The Zorvans were coming. Their monstrous warships filled the sky. Their weapons charged for planetary bombardment. And humanity. They had only one last hope left. But would it be enough? The sky burned. The Aegis shield was gone. The Zorvan dreadships loomed over Earth, their weapons charged and ready. Humanity's final defensive line had collapsed. And now, the planet faced total annihilation. But Earth was not done fighting yet. The last order. Inside Earth's war room, alarms screamed. General Carter's voice boomed across every military channel. All forces, this is it. The final stand. Give them everything we've got. Across the planet, every surviving warship launched into the sky. Fighter squadrons raced toward the invaders. Every ground battery fired into orbit, desperately trying to hold back the storm. But deep down, they all knew the truth. This was not a battle they could win. Unless. Is Project Exodus ready? Carter demanded. Dr. Wells' fingers flew across the control panel. Her face was pale, her voice shaking. It's not fully tested, but we have no other choice. Carter nodded grimly. Do it. Project Exodus, the final weapon. At the edge of the solar system, humanity's last hope came online. A hidden station, far beyond Pluto, powered up for the first time. It housed the most dangerous experiment humanity had ever attempted, a weapon designed to fold space itself, a controlled singularity, a black hole cannon. And now, Earth's survival depended on it. Dr. Wells sent the final activation codes. A massive energy surge rippled through space. The station's artificial singularity reactor roared to life. The Zorvans shock. On the Zorvan command ship, Commander Velkar watched the battlefield unfold. His dreadships tore through Earth's defenses, their weapons raining destruction. It was only a matter of time before humanity was erased. Then, the readings changed. A sudden energy spike, unlike anything the Zorvans had ever encountered. Velkar's eyes narrowed. What is that? Then, his scanners detected something far beyond Earth's orbit. Something massive. Something terrifying. And for the first time, Velkar felt fear. The black hole cannon fires. The singularity reactor reached maximum power. A deep, inhuman hum vibrated across the solar system. And then, it fired. A stream of pure gravitational energy erupted from the station, tearing through space like a cosmic tsunami. The very fabric of reality bent and twisted. And in its path, the Zorvan fleet. The Empire falls. Velkar's fleet had no defense against the attack. The first dreadship collapsed instantly, its metal frame twisting and snapping as it was pulled into the singularity's gravitational field. The second ship tried to escape, but the force was too strong. It was ripped apart, piece by piece, vanishing into the void. Velkar's own command ship shook violently. The Zorvan commander watched in horror as his unstoppable fleet crumbled. His empire had spent centuries conquering the stars, but in mere minutes, humanity had turned the tide. The unstoppable war machine of the Zorvans was no more. As Velkar's ship was dragged into the black hole, his final thoughts were of rage and disbelief. And then, silence. Victory. At a cost. Back on Earth, the war room was dead quiet. The sensors showed only wreckage where the Zorvan fleet had once been. Dr. Wells let out a shaky breath. It worked. Carter exhaled, his hands still clenched into fists. We did it. Across the planet, as the smoke cleared, humanity realized the impossible had happened. They had not only survived, they had won. The aftermath. The battle was over. The Zorvan Empire was broken. With their greatest fleet destroyed, their reign of terror across the galaxy was finished. And humanity. They had proven something to the universe. They were not prey. They were not weak. They were the ones to fear. As the sun rose over a scared Earth, the people looked up at the sky. They had faced extinction, and they had defied it. The message was clear. Humanity does not fall. Humanity rises.